I'm sure that there won't be any surprise that some of the interpretations I have of the world of work are somewhat different to what has been expressed, not least that for many of the women in my constituency, work is not a choice nor a health benefit, it is an absolute necessity for survival. Last Thursday we marked International Women's Day, a day where we celebrate the victories women have achieved so far on the path to liberation, and a day where we remember how far we have to go. This one day in the calendar is where we focus on women's issues and they're thrust into the limelight. It serves as an opportunity to briefly scrutinise our collective experience. The Labour Party used this day to announce that we would fine employers who not only fail to award it gender pay gap but fail to take decisive action upon it. Because the focus isn't always on workplace issues that affect women the most in the narrative around women at work. In recent years, we have seen the agenda, and it's as if I knew what the previous member was going to say in her speech. We have seen the agenda that only applied to women at the top. In this room, we will be aware of the campaigns such as the 30% Club and who aim to get at least 30% of women on the board in large public companies and similar campaigns. I do not wish to discredit such campaigns, but I do think it is unfair. I don't think it's unfair for me to say that they are not relevant to the majority of working women in this country, because pictures of balanced boards, of women CEOs may be glitzy, but they are a distraction from the material reality of working class women in this country. The focus of those campaigns, as I'll repeat, do not focus the reality of women in work, most working class women in work at this point in time in our nation. As with most things, success at the top does not trickle down, and I won't take any more interventions because of time. What good is it if a woman becomes a CEO only to rely on an army of women on precarious contracts and on poverty pay to make their sandwiches, to look after their children, to clean the offices? The success of these elite women does not facilitate the emancipation of lower paid sisters in the economy. In fact, some would argue it prevents it. The experience of most women, after all, is that of a worker and not of a boss. Our obsession with boardrooms has not only failed to close the pay gap for working class women, it has produced another kind of pay gap, the gap between women at the bottom and women at the top. Professional women on average earn 80% more than unskilled women, while the difference between professional and unskilled men is just 60, well, it's still huge, but it's 60%. Because while a few elite women succeed, the experience for most working class women is one of a system that is completely rigged against them. It's a system where zero-hour contracts are very common, and they're scared that they won't get adequate maternity pay if they want to start a family. And as a proud pregnant working woman, I know that my position protects me from many of the discriminations that pregnant women will face in the workplace. It's a system where women who are still in the main childcare providers and represent 90% of lone parents, and they're terrified they won't get enough hours to care for their children, a system where 230,000 jobs held by women pay less than the minimum wage, and it's a system where the government, let's be honest, doesn't even give adequate notice to women about their pension changes, leaving them in fear of their retirement, and then thinks it's appropriate that these women, expecting to be reaching retirement, are suggested to take an apprenticeship. It is a system where today women in low pay and poverty reduce their meal portions to allow their children in the school holidays to eat, and it is a system where unaffordable and inaccessible childcare forces women to work fewer hours or accept poorly paid, poor quality part-time positions, and are, of course, as been mentioned, are at risk of dismissal whilst on maternity leave. And it has been mentioned many times in the chamber that we have had 2 female prime ministers is a satisfactory explanation that the party opposite are the party of gender equality. And I think this, to be honest, is an affront to the women in my constituency and women across the UK who experience much inequality. It's important that there are women in the highest positions, of course, but it is never enough to just stop there. There have always been women who have succeeded in the face of structural sexism. There have always been women who buck the trend, but we cannot and must not be satisfied by the achievement of a minority of women while most women bear the brunt of poverty and austerity. Some of you may not know, and this is where I'll conclude, the International Women's Day itself started as a campaign for the right of women garment workers in New York. Women's issues have been always inextricably linked with class issues. It is only by punishing the bosses who exploit women and by creating a social security system that recognises the inequality faced by women that we have any hope for genuine equality at work, but fundamentally that we give all women workers and all workers the ability to collectively bargain their own pay and terms and conditions, and a system that challenges the gender-segregated nature of employment. And I am really glad that the honourable member has brought this debate. But let me tell you, women in my constituency will not be grateful for how their party has treated them.